John, thanks very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
To us today. Maybe just to start with, because not everyone would know Unipart so well, can you tell us a little bit about how the Parts and Service division of British Leyland went on to become one of the UK's largest employee-owned companies with 10,000 employees?
Well, I guess it all started with the buyout in 1987, and we set out the mission statement then for what the company wanted to become and the philosophy by which we would operate the business. So we were clear that we wanted to be an enduring, upper quartile performing company in which our stakeholders were keen to participate. And that was a difficult notion at that time for corporate UK to understand. Mm-hmm. But what we meant was that we had to inspire our stakeholders to want to stay with our company for life. That's an enormously difficult challenge. And of course, it's impossible to do it for everybody. But it did set the agenda for the way in which we develop our people, the way we work on long-term relationships with our customers, the way we work with our suppliers, the role we play in our communities, and the long-term returns we want to give to our investors.
And what were the greatest challenges in doing that? And were there any moments in the last, since 1978, when you almost thought maybe this approach isn't going to work?
Well, of course it was difficult because you're changing a historic corporate culture that's been brought up and learned to act in a certain way. And you're trying to change a whole national culture in which that original set of ideas, Model A ideas, were established, and the way many companies work. So it's incredibly difficult. It's not easy at all. I've been quoted as saying culture change is not rocket science. It's harder than that. It's really, really difficult to do. And the biggest challenge is never to deviate. Keep on communicating in an authentic way, in a consistent way, in a compelling way.
Maybe just going back to fundamentals, because running a large business is you're coordinating a large group of people. And in that what's your assumption of what do you think motivates people?
Well, it's not bad to start with. They're probably just the same as me. So what motivates me? But since that time, there's been a huge amount of behavioral research done, and we now have a pretty good idea about what drives employee engagement, if you like, because we know engagement delivers performance. So we know the 10 or 15 components of high levels of employee engagement, and that's why we developed the Unipart way.
And in its essence, what would you say the Unipart way is?
It's extremely difficult to explain the Unipart way in a soundbite. That's part of the problem with our Western culture is everybody saying, quick, tell me the 3 things I need to do to be a world-class business. It's like saying, tell me the 3 things I need to do to be able to play Beethoven's Ninth at the Albert Hall. Well, sorry, there aren't just 3 things you have to do. It's painful, hard work. You have to have a comprehensive philosophy. You have to have a world-class body of knowledge. You've got to be able to run your business with a guiding set of principles which resonate with people at every level. And you have to persevere and learn and study and work very hard.
I think that leads on to, because I sometimes find purpose, values, culture, this argument, a little bit like Marmite. That some people get it and believe in it wholeheartedly, and some people to some extent think, oh, that's a load of soft, that's not what business is about. And what would you say to the skeptics?
Well, there's 2 things. Either we'll carry on with your model and we'll see how you get on, because at the end of the day, that model has not worked, as the Tomorrow's Company study shows. So the evidence is against the skeptics. But most of the job of those of us that are passionate about Tomorrow's Company is to try and convince and persuade with evidence and with argument. And the best way to do that is, certainly we found, is to say to people, well, come see it working. Come to Unipart and meet people at every level in our company and let them tell you about the Unipart way and why that whole philosophy is a much better way of working for all the stakeholders. There are no trade-offs. That's the key.
Are there not moments when there is a trade-off, when you're facing a decision, you think this is a trade-off between employees or suppliers? I mean, it's really in a recession, the many recessions you've seen over your tenure of Unipart. I mean, there must be some tough decisions where you had to balance the interests of shareholders, perhaps employees, suppliers, in terms of where you made the cuts or whether you made cuts.
In the late 2000s, 2007 and 2008, we had the financial crisis. Our clients in car manufacturing radically cut back their production. What we were able to do is take men and women out of our factories who were very, very good at using the Unipart way and reallocate them for 3 months into our technology logistics business that was growing very strongly. Now, we would not have been able to do that if our employees weren't very flexible, weren't very adaptable, didn't understand that we were looking after their best interests, which they did, and if they couldn't, as a result of their deep Unipart way expertise, bring something of real value to the technology logistics business, which they did.
That's what was interesting there, that you said that it relied on the employees knowing that you had their best interests at heart. I was just wondering, how important is trust in the Unipart way?
I think trust is absolutely at the core of it, and it takes years and years to earn, and it can be destroyed quickly. I think, because we have worked at it so hard, and we're authentic about it, but we're also straightforward with people. We will move heaven and earth to secure the future employment of our people. One, through training them, to develop them to do bigger and more challenging jobs, to help them get into our consulting division, to help them grow as individuals. It's part of our brand values.
Many people will acknowledge the benefits in the long run of collaborative relationships, of having the right culture, of having purpose and looking after employees. But they'd sort of say, does that not cost money in the short term? That's not always possible. How do you measure? What would you say to those people?
I think the best way is generally to give some people an example. So there was some skepticism in our own company when we were taking employees in our distribution center and having them spend time learning the Unipart way body of knowledge, because you could tell the consequence of that. It was that we needed to put more overtime in or employ more people to drive the production, the picking, the packing, the manufacturing, or whatever. So we knew that it cost more. There was no doubt. If we didn't train them or we didn't take them offline, in the short term, it would have been better for the bottom line. But 10 years on, many of those men and women are working in our consulting division. They've got much more interesting and challenging jobs. They've grown and developed as individuals, and they are producing a much higher revenue and profit stream for us than they would have done in the job they were doing before.
Can you talk a little bit about trying to reward and recognise success?
So Mark in Action is a good example of one of the actions we take to embed outstanding personal customer service in the DNA of the company. So in 1987, we set the corporate goal to make the Unipart logo the mark of outstanding personal customer service. So the first thing was to train everybody, thousands of people, in what that really meant, and that took a couple of days. And people loved it. But we all know that learning decays with time, so you have to reinforce it continuously. So about 6 times a year, we have a Mark in Action award ceremony in our company university. It's a bit like the Academy Awards. The nominators, whether they're customers or suppliers or fellow employees, make speeches about what the team that were nominated for the Mark in Action award have done.
And am I right in saying you haven't missed an award ceremony?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I've never missed one, and I love going to them, and they are probably one of the most important entries in my diary, and probably one of the most motivating days for me personally, to go along and listen to the stories and say thank you to our colleagues who've done these extraordinary things for our customers.
Looking back, what achievement are you most proud of your career so far?
Well, I think probably the proudest moment was when I stood on the stage at Warwick University after a 3.5-hour long theatre show, which was designed to exemplify what the buyout was all about, both the risks and the opportunities, and told everyone there, we've bought this company, we own it, it's ours. We can now create a world-class British company owned in Britain.
So John, you were involved in the very original inquiry behind Tomorrow's Company. What did you take from that process, and what was the value of being part of the foundation of Tomorrow's Company and since then?
It provided the opportunity to codify some of our thinking alongside other very successful business leaders, some great academic thinkers, some other terrific opinion formers and leaders, and to build a conviction that the model we were working on was actually shared by some other successful people. And that's quite helpful, because what we were trying to do then, and what Tomorrow's Company was trying to do then, was still rather unusual, and it was a bit lonely. So it was great for us, it's been great for our people, And I hope that we've been able to help other companies that have come along and met with us and talked to us, and maybe we've been able to reinforce their conviction and help build their confidence in the Tomorrow's Company model. Because I'm absolutely convinced it's a superior business model for all organizations.
Brilliant. Well, John, thank you very much for taking the time. And
You're welcome.
Thank you.